Hello and welcome everyone to the quarterfinals of Grand Prix Vienna 2014. Only 8 players remain and they have already drafted Born of the Gods and Double Theros. Now we've seen Denniz, Rachid and Jeremy Dezani draft, so these are the players we're gonna watch. Watch the other players in the feature mat. At the far end of the screen you can see there Robert Jerkovic up against Alexei Antonenko. Then we of course have Denniz, Rachid against Jeremy Dezani. Then the second table on your screen, that is Aniol Alcaraz from Spain against Andreas Lesch, and then the first table on your screen is Alexa Telarov against Mats Utzon. Now our favorite so far, Frank, is Aniol Alcaraz. His deck looked amazing.
Absolutely, he may have been the only heavy white drafter at the table, and he was rewarded with Spear of Heliod, 100-handed one, a bunch of other top-notch white cards. So his deck looked very impressive.
It certainly did, but of course we're going to start with Jeremy Dezani against Denniz, Rachid. Jeremy Dezani on black-green, Denniz, Rachid on red-green with maybe a little bit of white. We don't know yet as we have not seen these players build their decks, but it seems like they are ready to play. They have kept their 7, it seems. Now, after the draft, it's very hard because we are still missing like 6 or 7 picks from Jeremy Dezani, but my favorite is Jeremy Dezani. His deck looked good to me. He does have some powerful cards. He's only 2 colors probably, so should be a little bit better on the manas for compared to Denniz, Rachid.
I'm still gonna go with Denniz. Denniz has a couple of great cards to win with in the late game. Bow of Nylea and Fort Stoker Dragon in particular, which Jeremy does not have a lot of answers to. Of course, I should remind you that both of these players are heavyweights of the game. Jeremy Dezani, you see the number 1 next to his name, indicating that he's our number 1 ranked player in the world, winner of the recently held Proto Theros. But Denniz Rachid is also not a newcomer to the spotlight. He is a teacher from Sweden, but he already holds 2 Proto Top 8s from Dark Ascension and Everything Restored. So we can expect some good magic over here, no mistakes, and players who know how to play out their cards and play around their opponent's tricks.
And now a Fellhide Brawler from Jeremy Dezani already attacked twice, so nothing for Denniz Rachid in the first few turns, so that might be a problem to be honest, if he's taking too much damage. I do see a Ferris Band Raiders in Jeremy's hand and maybe even a Race by Wolves, which could suit up the Fellhide Brawler next turn.
But both of the players have pretty slow draws. First play for Denniz, an Ilea's Disciple. Yeah, I'm sure Denniz would have loved to have a creature on turn 2 and on turn 3. Looks like Denniz is stuck with a bunch of expensive cards, maybe a couple of combat tricks in hand. Jeremy does nothing.
No, he does not have the Race by Wolves we talked about. He does have Ferris Band Raiders, Sip of Hemlock, and apparently he is 3 colors as well. Did not have enough playables, so he is playing Hopeful Eidolon as a white splash.
Yeah, but no white mana in sight, so that white splash is not working out for Jeremy so far. And Denniz is holding a lot of cards. Of course, at this point, Denniz also must be wondering, okay, what's going on? Why is Jeremy not playing anything? What could Jeremy be holding? Is Jeremy maybe missing a color, which is indeed the case? Is Jeremy holding some 6 mana cards or more, which is also the case?
Now, Ordeal of Perforos onto the Nylea's Disciple. Certainly going to attack with that one, making it to 4-4. But Jeremy Dezani seems to be ready with a Sip of Hemlock. Might even choose to go for his first Band Raiders this turn. Oh, and now he does draw that Race by Wolves, so it would have been a lot better last turn, but nothing to do about that.
Jeremy must pick up on the fact that Denniz has Aspect of Hydra in hand, because Denniz played Satyr Hedonist, then the Ordeal of Perforos into 5 untapped mana, which could have been Lash of the Whip. That kind of suggests that Denniz has Aspect of Hydra, the card that gives +X according to Green Devotion in his hand. And I'm sure that the player of Jeremy's caliber will pick up on that.
And now Jeremy Dezani thinking about Sip of Hemlock or Ferris Band Raiders. Seems like he goes for a Sip of Hemlock. You like that play, Frank?
Yeah, it doesn't give Denniz the opportunity to somehow put another ordeal on the Disciple and get multiple triggers. It doesn't give Denniz a chance to untap and hold Mortal's Resolve up, and given that Denniz likely has the Aspect of Hydra in hand, I mean, Jeremy was not going to block with his Ferris Band Raiders for that reason, so Sip of Hemlock is the better way to get rid of that Nylea's Disciple.
And now Karametra's favor onto the Setter Hedonist. A 6th land for Denniz Rachid, also holding a Ferris Band Raiders of his own, as we see, so this might come down to a battle of the Ferris Band Raiders.
And in such a battle, the bigger Ferris Band Raiders might be winning. As Jeremy does have Raised by Wolves in hand, that might be a decisive enchantment in a couple turns from now.
So you mean the smaller Ferris Band Raiders is not the one winning the battle?
Yeah.
So there we have it, one of the 2 Ferris Band Raiders, this time for Jeremy Dezani. He is holding, as you mentioned, Raised by Wolves and Time to Feed, so it might be even to be able to kill Denniz Rachid, the Band Raiders. Now of course he has to be careful, because Aspect of Hydra is a pretty good card, especially if you have already 3 green sources, mana symbols on the table.
And Jeremy still has that completely useless Hopeful Eidolon in hand. White Splash not working out for him yet, but if Jeremy does draw a Plains, it could provide him with a big advantage. Denniz is not doing anything, he's just passing with a lot of mana up.
That's a very strange play. What could he have here? Does he have a flash creature? We didn't see him pick up a Boon Satyr, for example. So
I think Denniz has Destructive Revelry, which can destroy any enchantment or artifact, but Jeremy has none of those card types yet. Denniz probably also has some combat tricks, like the Aspect of Hydra that he was representing earlier. And maybe Denniz doesn't actually have any creatures in his hand.
it seems like a very, very strange turn of events there. We were expecting that Ferris Band Raiders, but it seems like Denniz might not have it after all. Now, of course, Jeremy Dezani is going to suit up that Fellhide Brawler actually he doesn't want to suit up that Ferris Band Raiders.
Yeah, he might be scared of Divine Verdict coming from the Satyr Hedonist that's enchanted by the Karametra's favor. You never know what might be coming out of a creature that can tap for any color. And this way he doesn't put all of his eggs in one basket. It also possibly plays around something like 3 pump tricks.
Yeah, we'll soon know what Denniz Rachid is up to. He plays Aspect of Hydra, gives his Satyr Hedonist +2/+2, still not big enough to take down that Ferris Band Raiders. Maybe another trick is coming. I wouldn't be too surprised to see that, actually.
I would be very surprised not to see another trick.
Yeah, there we see it, the Mortal's
that's
Resolve now. So now he turns his Satyr Hedonist into a 5/4 and then gets rid of the Raised by Wolves. So a good turn of events there for Denniz Rachid. Gets rid of the Ferris Band Raiders and the Raised by Wolves, only takes 2 in the process, and now facing basically 3 vanilla 2/2s.
Still, when you are at 12 life and only have a 2/1 creature in play, facing 3 vanilla 2/2s is still kind of a dangerous position. Or 10 life actually. Voyaging Satyr is not what you want in such a situation. Denniz needs to find a big creature of his own. He does have a bunch of them in his deck, ranging from Forge Stoker Dragon to Fanatic of Xenagos, Ferris Band Raiders, a lot of them, but it doesn't look like he has drawn any of them.
Now Simon, you have been watching the quarterfinals, the other 3 matches that are going on at this time. Do you have an update for us?
A small update, yes. No game result yet, but Alexa Telerov is looking very good against Mats Utzon. He has a Hopeful Eidolon, and what he bestowed is none other than Perforous God of the Forge himself. If Mats doesn't take care of his red creatures, then the indestructible god is just going to continue attacking with life gain. They're quite decided.
Now that's a nice play there from Alexa Tellerov. So he's looking very good in this game. In the meanwhile, Jeremy Dezani still attacking with his 2-2, happy to play just another 2-2. So it seems like it's a battle of the 2-2s for Jeremy Dezani. Denniz Rachid really needs something with more than 2 toughness in this situation.
Of course, the 2 cards in Jeremy's hand are kind of bad right now. Time to feed. Yeah, it takes out the Voyaging Satyr, but the Satyr was not really doing much. Then again, time to feed wasn't going to do much either. And now Denniz needs to draw a blocker, but it looks like he just has 2 lands in hand.
Oh, he draws another land, so game 1 is going to Jeremy Dezani very soon here. But we have another update from Simon Gertsen. Simon, what's up?
It turns out that Perforus enchanted with Hopeful Eidolon is pretty good. Perforus 1, Mats Utzon 0.
Okay, thanks for that. So Alexa Tellerov up a game over Mats Utzon. So and here Jeremy Dezani thinking about attacking or not. Is there a reason not to attack with everything? Can you think of a card?
I mean, there's obviously something like Lightning Strike that can take down 1 blocker, but from the top of my head, I cannot think of a reason not to go for it there. No.
Yeah, so first game goes to to Jeremy Dezani from France against Denniz Rachid. Both these players' decks look a little bit shaky to me. They are very slow, both of them. Of course, Denniz Rachid was drawing a lot of lands in that game, as was Jeremy Dezani, to be honest. He just had a couple of 2-2s, but Denniz Rachid just couldn't draw a 3 toughness creature. Yeah, and now we are going. Oh, now our favorite for the GP title on the right, Aniol Alcaraz, seems to be stuck on 3 lands for quite some time already. His opponent Andreas Lesch from Germany has like 7 lands at this point of time. Now the Priest of Iroas and the Rolliker, like you mentioned, not doing a lot of work. This is 1-1s against 1-2s and 1-3s. But of course there's also the Erebos' Emissary and the Centaur. So these are doing some work here.
Yeah, you can have all the good white cards in the world, but if you only draw 3 planes, he doesn't even have an island to cast his blue cards. Now another plane, so it's better than nothing, but I'm sure he would have preferred to draw an island here. Then yeah, it's still going to be difficult to fight back against some random stupid creatures. Definitely not the best card quality here on the table, but 100-handed one. Now that is an actual beast.
Is it a beast actually?
It is, well, I'm not sure what the creature type is.
It certainly has
a monster?
It certainly has a lot of hands. That one we can be sure about. But now a 3-5 on this board can't block the Centaur, because that one will just get pumped. So I'm afraid this situation is not very good for Aniol Alcaraz. He might even have to block the Emissary here, and then he will just lose it to a creature from Andreas Lesch if he has one.
And the fact that the Emissary is attacking right into the 100-handed one suggests that Andreas has another creature in hand that he can discard to the Erebos' Emissary. I mean, if Andreas didn't have a creature in hand, then Aniol could just put his 100-handed one in front of the Erebos' Emissary, any other creature to chump block the returned Centaur and, well, come out ahead. But no, he tries to take down the 2-4 with Fire Breathing. Andreas can pump it up to potentially 7 power, which means that he cannot destroy both of Aniol's blockers over here, but he can trade with the biggest creature on the board, the 100-handed one. Currently it only has 2 hands. That's not enough, and the 2 hands go to the graveyard.
And does he draw an island? No, he draws a favorite hoplite, so not much help there for Aniol Alcaraz. Now left with a 1-2, another 1-2, and a 1-3. So he certainly has some work to do. Maybe he's holding a Dauntless also. Oh, he's actually holding a Spear of Heliod, so that's a nice card to add to the board. All of a sudden that Priest of Iroas and that Rolliker even look worse to me.
Yeah, now Aniol has the option of triple blocking the Erebos' Emissary. Even if Andreas has a creature in hand to pump it, to make it to a 5-5, Aniol would still be able to take it down. and actually only lose one of his blockers in the process. This is a brave attack by Andreas here. Maybe he has Necrobite. That would be quite a blowout here.
Necrobite would be the perfect card here from Andreas Lesch. Now if I look at Andreas Lesch's deck, his deck is not looking very good to me. Satyr Rambler, Return Centaur, Priest of Iroas, Rolliker. This deck is looking very weak to me, to be honest.
Yeah, his creature base is definitely not impressive. I see a Magma Jet in the graveyard, which is a nice spell, but I think you need some more top-notch spells to go with it to push through your, well, currently 1/1s.
Yeah, and an attack that might have been too ambitious. Their triple block from Aniel Alcaraz takes care of the emissary, and now he does draw that island, so he should be back in this game. The weaker creatures from Andreas Lesch have done some damage, but it seems like it's not enough, and Aniel Alcaraz might be coming back into that game.
Definitely.
But we are going back to Denniz Rachid up against Jeremy Dezani. Jeremy Dezani started with a turn 2 Sylvan Caryatid against Denniz Rachid turn 2 Deadbell Raider, so that's a good blocker there on turn 2 for Jeremy.
Oh, and now all attacking creatures have Dot Touch. That is, well, definitely in my top 5 abilities on Bow of Nylea. And it means that Jeremy cannot block the Dead Battle Raider here. He just has to take 2 damage and keep his Sylvan Caryatid around.
So now Jeremy Dezani will have to find another way to get rid of the Dead Battle Raiders. But in the meantime, we do have another update from the floor. Simon Gershon, it seems like the first match is finished actually.
Hang on, start again.
Okay, we're gonna start again. It seems like we had a little technical issue. Simon, what's been happening?
Yes, Alexa Telerov won his match against Mats Utzon, the first player to advance to the semi-finals. His deck is white red, and it looks like he's only playing double red casting crossed red creatures, huge monsters that just ran over Mats Utzon without a problem. 2-0 for Alexa Telerov.
Okay, good job by our Serbian player Alexa Telerov. Now we are still waiting for the game Denniz Rachid against Jeremy Dezani. Jeremy did add a 3/3 to his board. Now of course cannot block that Dead Battle Raiders, because if he would block, Denniz Rachid would just put a +1/+1 counter on it. So, but he is going for Ordeal of Perforos, a great card of his own. Now making that Dead Battle Raiders even bigger, a 3/4 at least, maybe even a 4/5 thanks to the bow.
Yeah, and the counters from the bow also count for the Ordeal of Perforos. So if Jeremy does not have a way to deal with the Dead Battle Raider, and Denniz indeed puts an additional counter on it, then Denniz actually gets the trigger from the Ordeal of Perforos on the next attack already, which would allow him to deal 3 damage to the Ferris Band Trumper before the Ferris Band Trumper gets to untap and get the Inspire trigger. That's indeed what Denniz is doing.
So great combo there for Denniz Rachid. Also his Dead Battle Raider has a Death Touch if it attacks, so that's a great ability to have as well. But he's gonna have a huge Dead Battle Raiders next turn.
Yeah, with the Ordeal trigger, it is going to be a 5/6. That should cruise through combat quite easily. The question is, can Jeremy find a way to possibly destroy the Dead Battle Raiders here? There are not many cards that would allow him to do that. Asphyxiate or Time to Feed are not going to cut it. Alternatively, does Jeremy have a way to win this damage race over here? Also getting tough when Denniz is getting an Ordeal of Perforos trigger on the next turn.
And there we have the players in the feature match area. Still 3 matches remaining, of course, and we see that there are quite a bunch of people watching these 3 matches.
Jeremy also seems to have a Blood Toll Harpy in hand, a 2/1 flyer, but that can be pinged down by one of the other abilities in my top 5 on the Bow of Nylea. It can also shoot down flyers. There are few things that this bow cannot do. It puts additional +1/+1 counters on creatures, shoots down flyers. It can even put some cards from the graveyard back on your library. And gain 3 life as well.
Yeah, I would go even that far as saying that it is in the top 4 of my abilities on Bow of Nylea. Now, of course, the Ordeal of Perforos is still gonna be triggered this turn. It might be able to kill the first Band Trumper, and then the Harpy is gonna die to the Bow as well. So, it might not be a very good turn here for Jeremy Dezani.
That's indeed what is happening. Does Jeremy have any way to save his first Band Trumper here? If he doesn't, then he's telling Denniz that he probably also doesn't have a way to save his Blood Toll Harpy from the Bow of Nylea, opening up the door for Denniz to shoot it down.
And Denniz is indeed thinking about shooting that Harpy before blockers, of course, because that way Jeremy Dezani cannot use his Harpy to block the Raiders. Now it seems like we have another update from the floor. Simon Gertson, do you have another match result for us?
I have another game result, and that is in the match between Anjol Alcaraz and Andreas Lesch. Now you would think that the Fate Unraveler by Andreas Lesch would be a good permanent to have. However, Anjol Alcaraz had the Spear of Heliod that went around in the draft, and because Fate Unraveler deals damage, Anjol was able to kill Fate Unraveler, basically use the Spear offensively, and that won him a really, really long game 1. A pretty sweet play, and 1-0 for Spain.
Okay, 1-0 for Spain it seems, and actually Anjol was restricted on mana for quite a long time, but it seems like he found the answer with that Spear of Heliod, and he managed to win game 1 despite being stuck on 3 lands for a long time.
And also an excellent play of actually seeing the interaction between the Spear of Heliod and the Fate Unraveler. I may not have thought of that. There's a reason why Anjol is in the top 8 here. In the meantime, that Battle Raider is attacking again. It's 5-6, so even the 5-5 on Jeremy's side of the board is not the blocker that he is looking for.
Yeah, Jeremy Dezani doesn't seem to be holding anything very strong there. He does have a Cavern Lampad, but apart from that, he's holding 2 lands. So, actually Expect of Hydra just finishes the game right there.
Yeah, exactly 8 damage.
Exactly 8 damage for Denniz Rachid. So 1-1 in this quarterfinals. Jeremy Dezani loses game 2 to Denniz Rachid. Now both Nylea just dominated that game.
Absolutely. Not all abilities were relevant, but we saw the Death Touch being big. We saw the additional counters being important. We saw the ability to shoot down creatures with flying. It was an excellent card.
Now it seems like we have another update. Now Simon, do you have good news for Robert Jerkovic?
I do. He's up a game, and we've just moved them to one of our blue feature match tables. That was an intense game. Robert Jerkovic with blue-green, always with basically 0 cards in hand, because Alexei Antonenko's Siren basically made him discard every single turn, but then a sudden storm, and then Milet's Astronomer actually allowed Robert Jerkovic to generate value. A key Triton tactics off the top basically started the chain and made it put Alexei on the defensive. Robert Jerkovic wins a drawn-out game and is leading 1-0.
Good news for Robert Jerkovic indeed. Now we're going to stay with this game. Jeremy Dezani up against Denniz Rachid. Now we've seen a lot of these players deck Franken, and it seems like the rares are quite defining there. Denniz Rachid, Bowl of Nylea, did a lot of work. He does have a Force Choker Dragon of his own as well. So for me it's 50-50. In the beginning I thought it was Jeremy Dezani who was going to win, but the rares in Denniz Rachid deck are proving to be very good.
Oh, it's definitely going to be close. I think Denniz also has a deck with a slightly better mana curve that could prove to be useful for him. But Jeremy now gets to choose who is on the play, and it's probably going to be himself. That might give him also a small edge. And the players have been looking at their sideboards. Although sideboarding is more important in Constructed than in Limited, it is always useful to take a look at the cards that you didn't put in your original 40 card deck, because there might be some gems in there. Denniz, for example, I think put in Hunt the Hunter, a nice card in the green mirror match, whereas Jeremy, I believe he identified that his Bloodtoll Harpy was not going to be very good against Denniz, especially against the Bow of Nylea, but you don't want to give your opponent a free way to deal with one of your cards. So I think Jeremy took it out and maybe put in something like a Guardian of Meletis. Not a great card, but yeah, you should always try to make a couple small tweaks, look at what cards the opponent played, and find creatures that line up better against well, the game plan of the opponent. Also, a returned Phalanx going to the sideboard for Jeremy. It is a fine 2-drop, not an aggressive one, especially when you're on the play. Not the card that you want to have, though it is one of the better answers to Dead Bellow Raider.
Yeah, it seems like we do have more news from the floor. Simon, what's been happening in the other quarterfinal matches?
Andreas Lesch, after losing such a tight game 1, was certainly hoping to get off to a good start in game 2. However, Anil Alcaraz with his blue-white deck just dropped a turn 4 100-handed one. So now the rare is there to support him. And are you watching this game?
You know, we
okay.
just switched to it.
You see that the power level of the cards on Anjol's side is a bit higher, I would say, than what Andreas Lesch has to offer here.
Not even remotely close.
Yeah, but it seems like the Wing Seed Rider, it wasn't attacking, so a bit surprised there, because it means that maybe Anil Alcaraz was already at a low life total. Now Jeremy Dezani picks up his cards. I do see a Sip of Hemlock and a Keepsake Gorgon, but apart from that I don't see any early plays, but I'm guessing that he will keep this hand in a slow matchup as this one.
It is a fine mix of lands and spells. He has both of his colors. He has some good cards. Keepsake Gorgon is one of the better cards in Jeremy's deck, so it's definitely going to be better than an average 6-card hand. Denniz, however, has to mulligan down to 6 in search of a keepable hand. Since Denniz is on the draw, he will have 7 cards to work with on his first turn. That is going to be nice. But if we are doing some percentages here, then currently I'm guessing that Jeremy has 60 to 65% chance to win this match. He's on the play, he has a reasonable hand, and Denniz is going down to 6. Still, of course, yeah, we don't know how it will turn out.
Yeah, Denniz Rachid taking a look at his 6 cards, but in the meantime we're gonna go back to Simon. Simon, what's up?
As you see, I'm just coming here for the stories and not for the game results. In the matchup between Robert Jerkovic and Alexei Antonenko, Robert Jerkovic starts off with Meletis Astronomer and Meletis Charlatan, so he's on the Meletis plan. On the other hand, the Sirens are going off. Alexei Antonenko with his tribal deck, Shipwreck Singer into Siren of the Silent Song. Once again, the blue-black deck off with powerful Gold Starred.
Okay, thank you for that little story we have there from Simon Gertsen. So it seems like the other two matches have not finished yet. We do have our first semi-finals, by the way. It was Alexa Telarov from Serbia who is in our semi-finals. He beats Mats Utzon from Denmark, so that will be our first player. The winner of this match won't be playing against Alexa. The winner of this match will actually be playing against Robert Jerkovic or Alexei Antonenko. Now in the meantime it seems like Denniz Rachid has mulliganed and he did not find a third land. He did find a Voyaging Satyr on turn 3, but that one's going to die to Farikaskur, so not a good start for Denniz Rachid.
In the meantime, Jeremy has been playing Commune with the Gods, getting a bunch of cards into his graveyard, which might be nice for his Udinus River Trawler. I believe there was also a Raised by Wolves in the mix somewhere, but here is the Keepsake Gorgon, and yeah, with Denniz stuck at 2 lands, And now, well, a third line, but it's not a mountain. Denniz is in a lot of trouble. Keepsake Gorgon threatens to go monstrous in 2 turns, taking out any creature that Denniz can play. Jeremy has a hand filled with good cards. Yeah, the Race by Wolves that he got from the Commune with the Gods. Yeah, facing 3 forests, there's not much danger in going for it.
Now this is going to be huge. A 4/7 death touch creature and also 2 wolves, of course. And let's not forget that monstrosity ability neither. So this is going to be very hard for Denniz. Rachid draws another forest, but I'm afraid this game is going to be going downhill very soon.
Yeah, Nylea's Disciple allows Denniz to stabilize somewhat, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jeremy just activates the monstrosity on his Keepsake Gorgon. Yeah, clearing the way for the wolves, smashing in for 9 damage in total, actually threatening lethal damage on the next turn.
Yeah, and he does still have that sip of Hemlock as well, so he's looking very strong in this game. A Satyr Wayfinder might find a mountain, so that way he would survive another turn. We do take a look at the top 4. There's not even a mountain. There we just have the handshake. Jeremy Dezani, semi-finalist of Grand Prix Vienna 2014, beats Denniz Rachid from Sweden. So good job by Jeremy Dezani. A little bit fortunate that his opponent did not have any mountains actually. Now the deck from Jeremy Dezani, it didn't look very good, but at least it had a sweet combo. It has Commune with God together with Odunus Rival Trawler.
Yeah, his deck is fine. Same for Denniz's deck, and this is just the way the matches shook out. I did like that Denniz took it in a good-natured way, cracking a smile at the whole situation.
Yeah, and it seems like we are going back to the Anjol Alcaraz against Andreas Lesch game. Anjol Alcaraz is up a game in this one, but it seems like he is attacking here. Not afraid of that 100 hand and one. Plays Magma Jet on the Wingsteed Rider, scries. So that way his Flame Speaker add-up will trigger as well. Does he have another way to scry again? That would be very good and might be a way to get rid of that 100 hand and one.
So dealing 2 damage to the Wingsteed Rider means that the Magma Jet along with Ferregex Giant would trade for the Wingsteed Rider, and now Fall of the Hammer would deal 4 more damage to the 100-handed one, plus 4 damage in the first try combat step. This combat worked out quite nicely for Andreas.
Yeah, and let's not forget he put one of the cards from the scry ability from Magma Jet on top, so he's looking at a good draw next turn. In the meantime, Anjol Alcaraz now draws only lands. The first game he had basically no lands, now he's drawing pretty much only lands. Does he have a way to stop the Flame Speaker Adept and the Return Centaur?
Wavecrest Triton is a start. It can already block both the Return Centaur as well as the Flame Speaker Adept. Favorite Hoplite doesn't do much yet, but you never know with these white decks. There might be a trick coming, like a Dauntless Onslaught or a Battle-Wise Valor, that can make the Favorite Hoplite suddenly into a huge size. Andreas is not scared. Bam. Both of the creatures in there.
Send in the clowns. Wavecrest Triton jumps in front of that Return Centaur. Now of course there is still that Flame Speaker Adept, and we see a Searing Blood in the hand of Andreas Lesch. So that one might kill the Wavecrest Triton this turn.
Looks like Andreas actually has Ordeal of Perforos in hand, which he didn't play before combat. Am I seeing that correctly, or no? It's a Ferregex Giant. Oh, it's Searing Blood and Dragon Mantle. Now I'm seeing that incorrectly. But yeah, Searing Blood. It could take down the Wavecrest Triton. He goes for the Favorite Hoplite.
Yeah, kind of a strange play because the Wavecrest Triton is quite powerful as well. Don't forget that if it gets triggered by, if the heroic trigger happens, then Anjol Alcaraz can choose to tap a creature and it won't untap in the next turn. So a bit of a strange play. Also not playing that Dragon's Mantle before the attack, a little bit strange as well to me, because he would have been able to deal another damage to Anjol Alcaraz, but maybe he just didn't want to give out too much information there.
So Aniel has to work with a Cetessan Battle Priest, a blue bounce spell, and well, just the one power creatures that he currently has on the board. At 4 life, he cannot take another hit from that Flame Speaker Adept.
Yeah, and he can certainly not pay. He certainly has to pay tribute to the giant, because otherwise he would be just dead. So that giant is going to be a 5/5 trample for Andreas Lesch. But now he's first going to attack. He's going to attack with both of his creatures, of course. I'm guessing Aniel Alcaraz probably will be double blocking here. Yeah, there we see it actually, opting not to block with the. Opting to block the Wave Crash Titan onto the Flame Speaker Adept, hoping that Andreas Lesch will invest 2 lands and then be able to play that Voyage's End.
It's indeed what is happening here.
There we have it, the Voyage's End onto the Flame Speaker Adept. Now gonna bounce that creature, and since Andreas has already invested 2 of his mountains, he cannot play the giant anymore. So a good play by Aniel Alcaraz, putting that Triton in front of that Flame Speaker Adept. And now keeps the top card, so that should be a good one. And we know he has quite some good cards in his deck actually.
There could be a Spear of Heliod coming, though that might not be the most impressive card in this situation.
And maybe an Archon. No, it's actually the Spear of Heliod,
Okay.
but this is still a fine card to draw there now.
Yeah, you definitely keep it.
His Triton is a 2/5 and his War Priest is a 2/4, so 2 reasonable creatures. That Cerberus is not going to do too much to these ones. Also holding that Retraction Helix, as we see, he can use it on the Triton, tap a creature and then bounce the second one if it's needed. So he's certainly not out of this game just yet.
Definitely a good tempo play. Also a play that Aniel could use is not block the 2-headed Cerberus, take 1 damage in the first strike damage step, and then, well, take it down with the Spear of Heliod before regular damage. But it looks like that's not an option anymore with that Demolish. Aniel could bounce his own Spear of Heliod with Retraction Helix to save it. But if he does that, then well, he doesn't leave himself defenseless. He can target his own Wave Crash Triton, but he goes for the safe route of keeping the Helix up during the combat step.
Yeah, and it seems like we do have an update from Robert Jerkovic against Alexei Antonenko. Simon, what's been happening there?
Those 2 players are heading into a deciding Game 3 in their quarterfinals. The start of Shipwreck Singer and Scion of the Silent Coast was enough this time. The blue-black deck of Antonenko just out-card advantaging Robert Jerkovic. I do have one question though. Did you catch the combat step that dealt with 100-handed one in this match, or were you too late to tune in?
No, we saw that one.
Okay, that was the most amazing play I've seen, with Magma Jet and Fall of the Hammer combining to take out those 2 creatures. Amazing play by Andreas Lesch, but let's hope it's enough.
Yeah, I'm sure Aniel was not seeing that one coming. But no, he did lose the 100-handed one that turn. I'm sure he would have loved to have it here at this board state.
Yeah, and let's not forget we do have our 2 first finalists, semi-finalists. We have Alexa Telarov from Serbia and Jeremy Dezani from France. They won't be playing, actually the winner of this match, which we're currently looking at, Aniel Alcaraz and Andreas Lesch, will be playing against Alexa Telarov. The other match that's still going, Robert Jerkovic against Alexei Antonenko. The winner of that match will be playing against Jeremy Dezani.
So last combat, Retraction Helix bounced the 2-headed Cerberus, which Andreas enchanted with Ordeal of Erebos. Now Aniel has a fine blocker for the returned Centaur, but if the game goes long, then Andreas can just unload all the cards that were bounced over the course of the previous turns. There you see the Flame Speaker Adept and the 2-headed Cerberus again. And Andreas still has the Faragax Giant in hand, a huge creature. Nevertheless, if Aniel draws another good blocker or maybe a combat trick, then he should be able to navigate the next couple of combat steps reasonably well.
Yeah, most certainly. If he draws Celestial Archer, for example, he does have a 2-turn clock onto the Triton, and he can even tap down a creature, but instead he draws another Plains. That's not what he's looking for. has to ship the turn back to Andreas Lesch. Andreas Lesch on his turn draws a card. He still can't, well, he can attack of course, but that way Aniol could double block the Cerberus, for example, and then take another 4 damage. Is that an option he has?
Definitely. Alternatively, he can go block on the returned Centaur and the Flame Speaker Adept, but I do like trying to eat the 2-headed Cerberus here. You do fall to 2 life, making both the Flame Speaker Adept and the returned Centaur lethal, but you kind of need to try to deal with Andreas's cards one way or another. Also, if Aniol would draw a bestow creature, he could consider putting it on the Setessan Battle Priest to gain 2 life, thereby like negating the issue that he is at, well, 2 life right now. Ill-tempered Cyclops.
Yeah, so now an ill-tempered Cyclops from Andreas Lesch, obviously a very good card, as Aniol Alcaris is at 2 life, and I'm afraid that's going to be game. It seems like we're going to a final game in this match as well. Do you see a way out for Aniol Alcaris?
I do not. He has to block all 3 of the creatures, but ill-tempered Cyclops is going to go monstrous. 6 power trample, and the best Aniol can do is put indeed the Wave Quest Triton in front of it, but then he's still going to take 2 trample damage. Andreas currently has to worry a bit about a possible combat trick, another bounce spell, another Divine Verdict. Andreas doesn't know that Aniol is sitting on 2 lands. And Andreas has the option of just saying, okay, well, this combat is fine, your Battle-Wise Hoplite dies, and I will play my Farragex Giant afterwards. That is definitely the safer play against the Divine Verdict. But if he goes for it, if he activates the monstrosity on ill-tempered Cyclops, then he will win on this turn. Aniol is not holding anything.
Yeah, I don't really see, I do see a way out of there if Andreas doesn't pull the trigger, but he pulls the trigger, so there we go, scoop from Aniol Alcaris. So we are going to game 3 of this match. The other match that is still running, Alexei Antonenko against Robert Jurkovic, they have already started, so we're going straight up there. We see a Fate Foretold onto an Omen Speaker for Robert Jurkovic. Alexei Antonenko on the other side does have a returned Phalanx, so early turns still looking quite even there. And now read the bones for Alexei Antonenko. Takes a look at the 2 cards, will lose 2 life in the process. He should be still at a healthy 20 life, so that is going down to 80 from that read the bones.
Yeah, both players here drawing cards and scrying. So that means that they are setting up for the best cards in their deck. They have both colors of mana in play, they already have a bunch of lands, and because they are like using some library manipulation, they can dig towards like the best cards, the best synergies that they have access to, and we are hopefully going to see a great match in which both of these players are going to showcase what their decks are capable of.
So now a Sedge Scorpion from Robert Jurkovic, not much of a threat on its own, but I did see an Nessian Wilds Ravager for Robert Jurkovic, so that one could be very crucial here.
And no player is getting on the board quickly with a lot of creatures. Shipwreck Singer coming down. Yeah, no player is actually using all of their mana, which indicates that they have a lot of expensive creatures in hand or a bunch of combat tricks. And they must also pick that up from each other.
And now 5 mana for Robert Jurkovic. It's a Prophet of Krufix now. That's a great card. We saw it go very late in the draft. Robert Jurkovic might have picked that up actually as a 5th or 6th pick. Very nice card to have in your blue-green deck.
Yeah, maybe even definitely one of the best cards in Theros to pick up. It allows you to double up on mana. You can play creatures at instant speed, basically ambushing any attackers with a surprise blocker. You can even bestow creatures at instant speed. Okay, but Prophet of Krufix is kind of weak to asphyxiate.
Oh, is Robert Jurkovic gonna use this turn to flash in another big creature. He's certainly thinking about it. He only has 3 cards, one of which is a Nessian Wild Ravager, so maybe he's just waiting on his 6th land there to play that Wild Ravager.
So if you are Alexei here, you have to think, okay, so Robert didn't play any 5-drop creature, which means he has either his 6-drop in hand, indeed there is the Nessian Wild Ravager, and or a bunch of tricks. But if Robert was holding a bounce card, he probably would have bounced his own Prophet. If Robert was holding a counterspell, he probably would have countered the Asphyxiate. So Alexei must be putting Robert on a bunch of 6 drops and maybe some green combat tricks. None of which are... No, the combat tricks might end up mattering in the end. Of course, I'm just speculating here from the perspective of Alexei.
It
He
seems
says, yeah, 6/6 is okay. So we get a fight, and the returned
gotta
Phalanx
fight for
is
your
down.
life to par. Okay. He does draw a second island. He was actually missing
Party in
that
the
one.
Nessian Wilds, hey, always fun.
He does draw a second island, so now we can play the Siren of the Fang Coast, but he does have a lot of other creatures. He has at least one Omen Speaker there. Do we see a Benthic Giant, or certainly see a bunch of blue cards, so he might be able to get back into this game. He does have a Nullify actually, so but that one's going to be too late. The Nessian Wild Ravager has already killed that return Phalanx, and now is the 6/6 on its own. There we have the Siren of the Fang Coast. Of course, I'm not gonna give you my 6/6. Shipwreck Singer gets in for 1, puts Robert at 18 life, but Robert Jerkovic will be able to attack with that Nessian Wild Ravager and the Sedge Scorpion. So he does have 7 damage of his own.
So I'm getting a quick peek at Robert's hand here. Looks like Robert is sitting on Triton Tactics, Meletis Astronomer, and another card. The Triton Tactics doesn't do a whole lot for him here. I mean, he can untap some of his creatures, but he still won't be able to block any of Alexei's flyers. This game might be coming down to an interesting damage race with... there's a Nyxborn Triton that could give Robert the edge in the damage race.
It certainly could. There we see it, Nessian Wild Ravager grows to a 8/9 there. So that's a 2-turn clock. Unfortunately, it does not have evasion. So if Alexei can find enough chump blockers for the Nessian Wild Ravager, he's not out of the game yet. And he has at least that Omen Speaker. So certainly has at 1 and a Wave Crash Triton. So 2 chump blockers for Alexei still.
That indeed seems like the best route to victory for Alexei. Jump blocking the Nessian Wild Ravager every turn from now on, while attacking in the air with the Siren of the Fang Coast and the Shipwreck Singer. That is 5 power of flying in the air, so if Robert doesn't do anything about it, Alexei will win in 4 combat steps. And thank you, Marijn. We are switching up some of the commentators here. It's like a game of musical chairs. And welcome back, Simon Gertsen.
Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
All right, here I am, ready for the action. I was watching the other match, in fact. There are some pretty interesting things. I think the blue-white heroic deck is so much more powerful than the black-red deck of Andreas, but he was able to deal with Badwise Hoplite and the next creature with Maja and Searing Blood, but then Phalanx Leader came down and the Chosen by Heliod, Ordeal of Heliod Voyages, and still in hand. Didn't look good for black-red.
No, the card quality in the deck of Aniel just seems way over the top. Yeah. So in the meantime, here in this matchup we have a damage race between the flyers of Alexei Antonenko and also a huge Nessian Wild Ravager that has to be blocked every turn. But if Alexei can provide a nice stream of jump blockers, he might take this one down.
Yeah, this is looking quite similar to all of these three games have been really, really interesting. With the blue-black deck threatening to win in the air, Robert Djokovic having a few flyers on his own, tricks that aren't always the complete blowouts, but he would be able to use them to generate card advantage. So it was a very interesting matchup, I thought. Potentially the most interesting matchup of the quarterfinals with the Siren deck, as I like to call it, against just the blue-green value deck.
If you just tuned in, we are here at Grand Prix Vienna. This is the top 8, the quarterfinals, and already through to the semifinals are Jeremy Dezani, number 1 ranked player, and Alexa Telerov. And one of these 2 players will also move on.
Yeah,
to
and
the
both other
semifinals.
matches are tied 1-1. So we're basically looking at 2 deciding games here. The one we're watching right now and the one between Andreas Lesch and Anjol Alcaraz. I think it's quite interesting. Nessun Wild's Ravager was the pre-release promo for green, if you wanted to go green at the pre-release, and everybody was like, it's only a 6-6 or a 12-12, it doesn't have any cool abilities. Turns out it's a pretty cool ability.
Yeah, Robert was able to fight with return phalanx this game. Quite a deal. A 6-6 that takes out an opposing creature. Not bad for just 6 mana. Of course, it kind of misses flying or trample. That would have made it a lot better, but still a perfectly serviceable card.
My respect for Maletis Astronomer has gone up quite a bit as well. A subtle card, but it works wonders. Oh, Robert taking 5 here, yeah? No blockers in the air.
No flyers on Robert's side of the board. So that puts Robert down to 8 life.
Which means that he has a 1-turn clock, right? This is 4, 5, 8.
Yep, it is.
Horizon Chimera, end of turn? No, Breaching Hippocamp.
That doesn't... Well, the untap effect is not super relevant, but adding a 3-power creature to the board is
That could be
nullify.
an important nullify, because Robert was potentially planning to force Cars of the Tides into a chump block here, and that would have been huge.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that was exactly Robert's plan. If you look at the 3-power from the Breaching Hippocamp and assume that the Nessian Wild's Ravager gets chump blocked by the Wave Crash Triton, then the remaining creatures would have threatened 6 damage, so Curse of the Tides wouldn't have been able to block one of the 1-power creatures here.
And Robert is still threatening that with a Feral Invocation or Savage Search.
I just
here.
got a result. Alcaraz wins, so the higher card quality of the Spaniards' blue-white deck defeats Andreas Lesch in the quarterfinals. He put up a valiant effort. I really liked his lines of play there. Just winning game 2 was already quite the feat. So is Robert just looking at a trick here to save his life? And Alexei is of course playing around the trick, because if he cannot play around a +2/+2 effect by not blocking.
Yep.
It's interesting that he decides to kill the creature that draws Robert Djokovic a card.
I agree. Then again, if you put Robert on having a combat trick, then blocking the Maletis Astronomer would also give him a free trigger, possibly finding him another enchantment, bestow creature, something like that.
To be fair though,
And-
enchantments don't really get you out of this, except for maybe Nimbus Naiad, right? An interesting
True.
spot, definitely. But
Yeah, and
Robert has-
Robert actually has a trick in hand, but it is a Triton Tactics, and that is kind of the worst trick that you can have in this situation.
Does he have a Sudden Storm though? That would be huge. Horizon Chimera. This has to live. This has to resolve and to live. Maybe we can even see something like a Lash of the Whip and then a Triton Tactics. Or no, it's Weight of the Underworld. It's sorcery speed. This is the problem in this format. If you cannot kill creatures at instant speed, you're always on the receiving end of these tricky plays, of these flash plays. And Alexei is realizing that now.
Yep.
What a tight
Yeah.
game. What a close game. Robert is making a very defensive block here. Of course, he knows that. He knows that this is potentially deciding. Wants to kill Colors of the Tides rather than just blocking the Siren. Doesn't get a card off Maletis Astronomer, but he's threatening lethal.
Yeah, there's also not much that can go wrong here. There is Boon of Erebos and Sip of Handblock in the format, but Robert would go down to 3 life after this attack. So he's even safe from those cards.
Yeah, this is something that was done quite intentionally, limiting most of the pump effects to +2/+2, so that you can actually play around them without being in fear of that. Alexa Antonenko extends the hand. Robert Djokovic is through to the semifinals.
Yeah, there was definitely an intense damage race there near the last couple of turns. Alexa tried to go for it. If Robert had nothing, Alexa would have won, but any instant speed flyer, apparently a good card.
I still think that blocking the non-enchanted creature, blocking Maletis Astronomer, might be the better play. Could also decide to just not block. Maybe that's actually the best line.
Yeah, we don't know when Robert actually drew that Horizon Chimera, but it could have been the card that he got off of the Fate Foretold trigger. Definitely possible. If that indeed was the case, then Alexa will be regretting his decision to make that block. Yeah, it's tight margins here. So we know the semi-final matchups now. We are going to have the semi-finals of Aniol Alcaraz versus Alexa Telerov. And on the other side of the bracket we have Jeremy Dezani against Robert Djokovic.